only mode.
Good morning and welcome to our study of the Wishfulfilling Jewel, the practice of the Longchen Yingting Guru Yoga. Now, this today's session is a little bit unusual because today's session is a little bit unusual because I'm with a group of friends and we're doing the Chimepama Nyingtik 8 Chimepama Nyingtik practice together, White Tara. So you can possibly hear some chanting in the background, and I hope it's I think it probably is nice, but I hope it's not. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Yes. So so I thought, why not do it? I'm participating here, but I thought, okay, well, they'll do fine without me, and I actually didn't really know how to do this, so so kindly the organizers have lent me an office, so that's where we are right now. So so I'm glad that people are okay with this, and actually for the most part I think it'll be quiet down there because there'll be recitations. So at that point it's more a question of whether I'll be disturbing them by by sitting up here and talking. Anyway, I'm glad. I think it'll work out just fine. So good. So Dharma is happening. The great teachings of the Vijayadharas is being put into practice here, and and similarly also we'll say practicing the wisdom of contemplation. So just before we begin, just to sort of briefly touch on the topic of our lineage masters. So today I wanted to talk about somebody called Vairochana, who's very important in Tibetan Buddhism, because he was Buddhism was imported by some great Indian masters, and we've mainly spoken about Vimalamitra and Padmasambhava, but there were also Tibetans that went to India. When you had Buddhism translated and really sort of imported, which was it was an effort on the basis of the Tibetan king Trisong Detsen, due to previous lives, aspirations, and so forth. But it was also endorsed by the kings, being what they were in those days, by the whole by the whole government. Obviously, the king was more than a king; he was actually an emperor. And in those days, the Tibetan nation was really a Tibetan empire, and quite expansive. You still to this day find pillars in Lhasa and also over and towards the Chinese borders, where the Chinese and the Tibetans agreed that the Tibetans should not extend their empire further into China. So there was a time when the Chinese were supplicating the Tibetans to please not extend further. So the Tibetans have had an imperialist time, and at that sort of height of the empire, then King Trisong Detsen decided to import Buddhism to Tibet. He was also advised by somebody who I think we'll look at next time, called Nyangwen Tenzin Zampo, who was a great minister, sort of a little bit of a Cardinal Richelieu, a grey eminence, somebody who ruled behind the scenes a lot. But he was also a great meditator. And he was then, together with Trisong Detsen, part of the decision-making of establishing Buddhism in Tibet. And one of the Tibetans early on was an exceptional child who was identified as being brilliant and who was one of the first to be ordained. And he also was trained to become a translator. He traveled to India and he studied with various masters, but particularly somebody called, well, you know Sri Singha then. Yeah, we've looked at Sri Singha. So he studied with Sri Singha, and he then, along with Vimalamitra and Guru Padmasambhava, was one of the teachers who brought Dzogchen teaching to Tibet. So he is viewed as what we call one of the three Dzogchen Shintan Namsum, one of the three chariots of the Great Perfection teaching. But he also worked as a translator, and a lot of the translations that we have, both in the sutra and in the mantra context, are translated by Vairochana in conjunction with a Indian Pandita. So you would always have on one hand a Tibetan and one hand an Indian, and they would work together, which is also why the translations really carry such, they have such authority, because they were the way they worked, there was a very effective way of working. So otherwise, sometimes you had translators in different places that worked on their own, you know. But here you had actually two people, and this teamwork was very sort of ensured quality of translation. Vairochana was teacher of Tristan Detsen, and at one point one of the king's queens was very upset with him, and for other reasons as well. And so he was banned. He was sent over to Eastern Tibet, and he was in exile for some years. And that's where he continued teaching. And he actually had some students over there, including somebody called Yudra Ninko, that I think I mentioned last time in the conjunction with Vimalamitra, and others. And so his lineage then, his Dzogchen lineage continued. So he both worked as a translator and also as a teacher of Dzogchen. One very sweet anecdote we have about Vairochana teaching Dzogchen is that at one point, I can't remember, he might have been coming from India or wherever he was coming from, but there was an old man, he was 80, who wished to hear the teaching and practice it. And he waited down at the road where he knew Vairochana was coming. And then when Vairochana came, he requested teaching. Vairochana instructed him. He was physically quite not so well, so he had to be propped up with what we call a meditation stick under his chin to keep him straight, and also meditation belt. But he had such direct insight into the nature of mind that within very little time he was completely clear on what he needed to do, and he was so delighted that in the traditional narrative it said that he hugged Vairochana and wouldn't let go for an entire week. So he practiced, and within a number of years, not very long actually, he achieved what we call the body of light. He had achieved perfection, and so we and his students then also. So we say that Vairochana had a very great impact on the Great Perfection teaching, in addition to being a great translator. So and very often when we talk about Guru Padmasambhava's activity, we talk about his three main students, Je Bang Droksum, which is the king, the subject, and the consort. King Tristan Detsen, the subject is Vairochana, and then there's the consort, or actually Drok literally means friend, who is Yeshe Tsogyal. So, Vairochana. And by the way, there's a wonderful translation of his life made by Ani Jimba called The Great Image, which is an extraordinary story really, with a lot of instructions in great perfection practice. So, these instructions. Okay, so back to the text that we presently are studying. The wish-fulfilling jewel, kindly generate the intention to intend to practice this, so that we can establish all sentient beings on the level of perfect enlightenment. So we last time looked at this devotional prayer, Jetsun Guru Rinpoche, And at this point then, completing that, we do the recitations of the Vajraguru mantra. Here Khyentse Rinpoche says that in the general context of practicing this, we can recite the mantra 300 times. But if you're doing the Longchen Nyingtik Ngondro as such, then there's various ways you can do it. In the tradition, actually in the Longchen Nyingtik tradition, you do 100 times 100,000. In the context of the Ngondro Ga, I think we do 360 hours, but I'm not sure. If you're doing the Ngondro, don't worry. When you get there, it'll be clear. There are instructions, and yeah. So, but anyway, we then recite, and this is the main practice of the Guru Yoga, is invoking the Guru through the recitation of the mantra. So, as we're approaching the Vajrayana, it goes through something which is beyond just intellectual understanding, and hence the Guru is key. And us practicing Guru Yoga is invoking the teacher from the point of view of touching on something that lies beyond the rational mind and creating the conditions for what we call blessing. So we do this through the various forms of devotional supplications, and then in an essential form is then the Vajraguru mantra. So that at that point we sustain the visualization of the teacher in the form of Padmasambhava present before us, and we chant the mantra. Khyentse Rinpoche says, when realization takes birth in our being, the two veils, both the one that darkens our mind through negative emotions and the ones that obscure knowledge of the relative and the absolute, will be lifted and vanished. So again, we generally talk about these veils that prevent us from recognizing our original nature, this cognitive dysfunction. And it can be seen in a few ways, but generally we would say there's two main obscurations. One is the whole afflicted condition of our suffering mind, which is the other negative emotions, the aversion, attachments, and so forth. And then also the cognitive obscuration, which is then the simple, or not the simple, but the foundational, just not recognizing reality for what it is. So that we call cognitive obscuration. And that here is defined in terms of the knowledge of the relative and the absolute. And here what we mean with that is that the absolute nature is something that's beyond any kind of confusion. It's a condition of non-confusion. But so that's the absolute. But what drives then confusion is that its nature is such that it manifests. And when we don't recognize the manifestation that appears within it, see, it's not just a blank nothingness, it's the capacity for manifestation. But when we see that as other, and when we see the perceiver and the other as separate, then we're mistaking the nature of what's perceived, and that's where we could say we begin to be confused and plunged into the condition of these relative perceptions that are unique to us, our particular way of constructing the confused world of our projections, and that is the relative then. But it seems as real. So on the path, we talk about relative and absolute truth, dealing with the way that things appear to us, and then the way that things actually are, which through the path we come to realize. So with the cognitive obscuration, the most subtle one, it's based on this initial confusion that fails to understand what's what. Now, when we're invoking Padmasambhava, we do this with a sense of, you could say, urgency, with a sense of getting down to what really matters in every micro moment of our existence, namely this confusion and the possibility that we could be free of that. So connecting with Padmasambhava is the way of freeing ourselves from this confusion. So this is not an intellectual exercise. This is an exercise where we completely give ourselves, like we looked at before with our what's it called, our heart and soul. And we say we pray. We engage here the mantra. We pray with full confidence that Guru Rinpoche will quickly grant his blessings and that he will reveal to us the meaning of the great perfection. Again, this is very different. This sort of language of praying to Guru Rinpoche that will grant blessing is alien to a lot of us in the modern world. But at the same time, there is an undeniable quality in this process of surrender, simply because it comes from a place of heart. So as much as we might, as modern people, have reservations about surrender, once we know that there's somebody that can be trusted and that can be surrendered to, then we do it in various ways. And certainly here it applies that the shortcut and the practice of what in India we call bhakti, is this heart that simply surrenders, and as such we are supplicating Guru Rinpoche, the embodiment of enlightenment, the embodiment of the teacher, the teacher's presence. We're supplicating that without any reservation, directly. And so then we need to use a word like pray. And this extraordinary phenomenon that happens in this context, yes, we refer to this as blessing. And we're aspiring to see reality for what it is, aspiring to see what we call the great perfection, the abiding natural condition. So then there's liturgy where it says, I pray to you from the bottom of my heart, not simply with my lips to grant your blessings, not simply with my lips, to grant your blessings so that all my aspirations may be fulfilled. Rinpoche says, while making this prayer, we should think, Guru Rinpoche, I am not just mouthing words. I'm not begging for your protection in this life and in the bardo to flatter you, but I'm praying to you from the very core of my being, from the marrow of my bones. I have no other thought but you. I remember nothing but you, meaning I think of nothing but you. I want to disappear into you like a stone thrown into water. I cannot bear to be separate from you. So again, this is the core of devotion. This is the core of this path of bhakti. And this is how we supplicate. This is how we recite the mantra. In this way, our mind becomes completely filled with the presence of the Guru. All negative thoughts, no matter how gross or poisonous, become completely pacified and vanish at the very thought of the Guru. This is an important point. We very often struggle with our psychological material, whether it's trauma from the past or events that are overwhelming us and so forth. And with the practice of the general Buddhist vehicle, yes, we have various ways of dealing with the psychological conditions. But with the practice of Guru Yoga, this practice of this sense of love and devotion, it actually makes everything melt away. This is maybe sounds odd if we haven't experienced it, but then again, people experience things like love. And when people are in love, everything else sort of just falls away. So it is an experience within the ordinary secular or in the ordinary worldly context. And certainly it is key for the entire practice of the Vajrayana, this deep devotion. But with that deep devotion, then ordinary thoughts, perceptions, they fall away simply by the thought of the Guru. Everything else seems so insignificant. So this presence of the Guru is that which we would say outshines everything else. We should pray with all the energy and intensity at our disposal until we are blessed with this kind of experience. So at the same time also, we're not assuming that we're born with this kind of devotion. This is something that we develop. But it's something that is the most important project really that there could ever be. And so we would say, if we actually develop such genuine devotion, excuse me, So yes, so devotion is something that we work on developing, and of course, what we are engaging when we develop devotion is something that is unusual certainly within the modern culture, namely the notion that there's somebody who's absolutely beyond all the confusion that normally holds us back. And so the notion of the enlightened one is exceptional. At the same time, this is the entire premise of the Buddhist path, and it's not just with the notion that there's an enlightened one out there, but it is about also that there's enlightenment within, and it's through the engagement with the teacher, with the outer, what we call symbolic teacher, that the inner absolute teacher is engaged. So this is something that we develop. We don't walk in and it's just, well, for some people it is, and some people, unfortunately, that becomes that's a little bit embarrassing when people start saying, "Oh, I have so much devotion." I remember when I started on the path, I didn't have particular devotion. I was very suspicious, actually, of gurus and the like. And people talking about how they had devotion, I sort of just think that sounded rather sort of inane and sort of, sort of felt that's sort of a sad lack of critical muscle. And of course, in understanding the nature of the path and the nature of the Buddhist vision and the methods and so forth, and also discovering the qualities of the teacher, then of course it comes to make perfect sense. But it is something that we shouldn't assume is just there from the start. And if we don't have it, then we're not suited for the path. It's something that we develop. And I think as we're developing, I don't think we need to make too much of a sort of show of our devotion. Actually, Khyentse Rinpoche, he very often makes a point of asking his students to please, especially in public spaces, not sort of make a show of their devotion and all of that, to just keep it low. So, but all of that said, then the entire premise here is that we develop genuine devotion. And from that point of view, Rinpoche says, if we actually develop such genuine devotion, then Guru Rinpoche will be like a mother who always has the greatest love for her child. Whenever such a mother wants to give her child something, she never thinks, well, this is too good for him. Rather, she always gives the best things that she can find. We should pray to Guru Rinpoche thinking, please grant me your compassion and deliver me from suffering in this and future lives. Please guide me to the higher realms and help me to attain ultimate enlightenment. So with our minds thus filled with total devotion, here again we recite the Vajraguru mantra as much as possible, at least 400 times. Okay, let's see here. 300 hours of recitation. Okay, yeah. Good. So, then Khyentse Rinpoche says, why is it so important to recite mantras? And what are they? Just as we visualize ourselves as a deity and the surroundings as a Buddha field in order to purify our impure perception of form, we recite mantras to purify our impure perception of sound. Mantra is a Sanskrit word that means to protect the mind. In Tibetan, yikyop. Since while reciting mantras, the mind is protected from its ordinary deluded thoughts. Now, this is an important point. Mantra is that which connects to a pure dimension within ourselves. This whole science around this, science of nada, and the science of Sanskrit alphabet, and that is then basic to the mantras that we have. But it is like any practice of yoga, something that aligns ourselves with this undiluted original condition. So we can do physical yoga, and we begin to feel not just the physical benefit, but the mental benefit. And also with mantra, we recite mantra, and it, even though we might not be feeling particularly spiritual whatever inspired, the mere fact of chanting mantra also benefits our mind. Of course, it's particularly powerful if we do it with the inspiration of devotion. But it is that which protects the mind, and it's something that we can actually do at any given time. So we could do it when we need it, but we can also sustain it throughout our everyday life. In the tradition of yoga, in the Indian tradition also, you have the notion of just continually having a mantra going. This is quite common in the Indian yoga tradition. You sometimes see these swamis that would have a little bag around their hands, and they're always doing what they call jap, their recitation. The Tibetans also call it jap. They call it zap, but it's the continual recitation. Very often in the Tibetan yoga culture, you see people practicing at all times, learned lamas, great yogis, and ordinary lay people. There's this culture of simply reciting mantra all the time. And for us in the modern world, where obviously that's a little bit of an unusual, somewhat marginal practice, or it's not very well understood, we can nevertheless do this. We don't need to make a big show of it. We can just run a mantra in our mind. But this has a tremendous benefit in terms of our well-being. And sustaining then with devotion the vision of the deity and the presence of the teacher to recite mantra has great benefit, and it is this practice then of protecting the mind from the ordinary deluded patterns it gets caught up in. It doesn't prevent us from being effective and going about business. On the contrary, it actually enables us to be less clouded. Khyentse Rinpoche continues, the mantra most intimately associated with Guru Rinpoche is known as the Vajraguru mantra, Oma Hum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. This mantra is the life and heart, the quintessence of Guru Rinpoche. It is, in fact, Guru Rinpoche in the form of sound. So in the Heart Treasure of the Enlightenment, we would say Mani Padma Hum is Chenrezi in the form of sound. Similarly also, Guru Rinpoche is embodied in the mantra Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. So looking at this mantra, Om, the first syllable Om, corresponds to the body aspect of all the Buddhas. Although Guru Rinpoche is the all-pervading Lord of the 5 Buddha families, the Om in this instant corresponds particularly to the Buddha Amitabha, who is the Dhammakaya aspect of the Lotus family. So this is the way that we understand Padmasambhava as the manifestation of the Buddha of the Padma family. The particular style of Guru Rinpoche, we would say, reflects the quality of Padma. But this here, in this sense, we understand Amitabha as simply the original ground of non-confusion. But as it then engages with the world through the manifestation of compassion and acting in this world, we would say that from the heart of Amitabha sprung Avalokiteshvara, from which then Guru Rinpoche is an emanation. So we explain it in this way. Very often we'll see that. The second syllable corresponds to the speech aspect of all the Buddhas. In this case, it refers specifically to the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great compassionate one, who is the Sambhogakaya aspect of the Lotus family. From the syllable emanate the 84,000 sections of the Dharma. Hum. The third syllable Hum corresponds to the mind aspect or wisdom essence of all the Buddhas, which here manifests as the lotus-born Guru and corresponds to the Nirmanakaya aspect of the Lotus family. Guru Rinpoche is in fact the complete union of the 3 Kayas, and the first 3 syllables of his mantra indicate this. So in this way we invoke the 3 Kayas, Dhammakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, with the first 3 syllables, Mahom. And then Vajraguru, next comes Vajraguru. Vajra, a Sanskrit word, pronounced Benzar in Tibetan, refers to the diamond or the Dorje, the lord of stones, Dorje Palam. So supreme among natural materials. So we would say the Vajra is has this quality of being indestructible. The diamond is so hard that nothing can cut through it, and this quality permits it to cut through anything. In the same way, the unchanging wisdom nature of Guru Rinpoche's body, speech, and mind cannot be harmed by delusions and poisonous emotions, while his body, speech, mind, and wisdom effortlessly annihilate the obscurations and delusions that are the karmic results of negative emotions and negative actions. Sometimes we would say Vajra is what when we, for example, say Vajrayana, it's the vehicle that takes this undiluted condition, essentially Buddha nature, as the path. And this is the unchanging wisdom nature that here we refer to as the unchanging wisdom nature of Guru Rinpoche's body, speech, and mind. And it's untouched by emotions and confusion, and it also cuts through any confusion. So this original nature is then referred to as Vajra, and here then we associate this with Guru Rinpoche. We would say that by Vajra Guru or Dorje Lama, Tibetan, we mean a great accomplished being who has attained the ultimate end of the path of the Vajrayana. So this is how we see Guru Rinpoche, both in terms of his original nature and also in terms of how he manifested in this world. In short, Vajra indicates absolute mastery or realization of the indivisibility of the three kayas. As mentioned before, translated literally from the Sanskrit then, Guru means heavy, and implies that the Guru is heavy with good qualities. You know, we also say this. In Latin we say somebody has pondus, you know, that they have some weight in terms of in terms of their being, in terms of their authenticity, I guess, but more just sort of in terms of the way that their presence has weight. And we also we talk about people having, having authenticity in terms of having substance, in terms of having clout, having weight, all of this. So this is how we understand Guru as somebody that is heavy with, but the implication here is good qualities. So since the body, speech, and mind of Guru Rinpoche possess an infinity of qualities identical with those of all the Buddhas, we can consider them as the precious contents of an enormous treasure chest. Filled to overflowing. Such a chest would be quite heavy, and this is what is meant by heavy with good qualities. Just as gold is both heavy and precious, the Guru is the heaviest and most precious of all beings because of his inconceivable and flawless qualities. The Tibetan word for Guru is Lama, which connotes something lofty or above all things in excellence. For instance, in paying homage to the three jewels, the three roots of the three kayas, or in the recitation of the names of the Buddhas, we always begin with the word Lama to indicate that what follows is unsurpassed and unsurpassable. So, for example, we would say Lama Temban Deshin Shekpa Drachomba Yangda. When we refer to the Buddha, the first word we actually say Lama as someone who possesses the highest qualities. We refer to our teacher as Lama because having the good fortune to meet him or her in this life and to hear his instructions, we thereafter remember him at all times with great devotion. So also the Lama is somebody that we recognize their qualities, but then they stay with us as something that we just come back to Like, for example, if we have somebody we love or deeply respect, we don't particularly need to think about them a whole lot. Just the image comes back and we immediately are imbued with this profound gratitude. So we will then always remain beyond the reach of negative emotions, never falling prey to the various karmas and obscurations of samsara. So due to the encounter with the Lama, his teachings, his personality, and so forth, we're no longer bound in the same way to the habitual patterns and the negative afflictions. From the moment of his appearance on the northwest border of Udayana until the moment of his departure for the southeastern continent of the Rakshasas, Guru Rinpoche displayed and taught all aspects of the sutras and tantras. But since he primarily unfolded the secret teachings of the Vajrayana, through which one can attain both the ordinary and supreme accomplishments in a single lifetime, we refer to him as Dorje Lama or Vajra Guru. It was to teach the Vajrayana that Guru Rinpoche manifested in this world. So we juxtapose the teachings of the sutras and the mantras. So while the Buddha primarily taught the sutra teaching, the gradual path, the Buddha also predicted the coming of Padmasambhava and the teaching of what we would call the effortless vehicle of the mantra teachings. Rinpoche says, when Lord Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma in India in accordance with the needs and capacities of the beings there, he did not teach the Vajrayana very extensively. As the moment approached when Guru Rinpoche was about to pass into parinirvana, Riksum Gombo, the three protectors, the three close Bodhisattva students, they appeared before him, Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, and Vajrapani, and they said, please turn the wheel of Vajrayana in this way, and in this way benefit the beings of the land of snow. They then pleaded with him to remain on this earth in order to fulfill their request. In response, Guru Rinpoche told them that after his parinirvana, another greater manifestation would appear, born in an immaculate way in order to propagate the profound teachings, and that they themselves, particularly Avalokiteshvara, would be entrusted to safeguard the spreading of the teaching of the Dharma in Tibet. In this way, he announced the coming of the lotus-born Guru. According to ordinary history, Lord Buddha did not unfold and expound the teaching of the secret Vajrayana. However, at the moment of his parinirvana, 5 of his greatest disciples, who had gathered together on the blazing iron mountain, perceived his passing through their powers of clairvoyance. These were 5 remarkable beings, Vijayadharas, respectively of the realms of celestial beings, yakshas, nagas, and humans. We actually say that this is associated with Adam's Peak in Sri Lanka. That's generally the consensus. So you can visit this place. But these five great masters, they lamented, now the teacher is no more in the world, they lamented. Who will dispel the darkness of ignorance? Who will show us what is to be practiced and what is to be avoided? In response to their deep sorrow and fervent supplication, Vajrasattva emanated from the heart of all the Buddhas in the form of Vajrapani. He revealed and explained the secret mantrayana to them. Shortly thereafter, the teaching of Mahayoga in the form of the 18 classes of the Tantras, of the magical net of emanations, fell from the sky onto the roof of King Indrabodhi, and the teachings of Anuyoga manifested themselves in the land of Singhala, meaning Sri Lanka. So here, also what is particular about the Vajrayana, while the general sutra teachings operates within the scope of the human realm, the Vajrayana does operate with the notion of the God realms and also manifest realms, teachers such as Vajrasattva and so forth. So it does extend beyond the ordinary familiar sort of realm of our human world. So of course you can't blame when there are those who say, oh, that's not real Buddhism. That's sort of some sort of invention. Of course, that's understood. But at the same time, I mean, it's understandable people would have that reaction. But at the same time, I think we need to expand our sort of notion of our reality a little bit. And while, of course, we are familiar with our particular realm, then there's also realms that are not held by the same degree of confusion as our perceptions are, and that there are teachings held within these realms. This doesn't actually extend into some metaphysical mystery as such. It's really just the scope of those that are less confused. But even we, within our ordinary experience, we can see that when we're less confused, we also have some perceptions that are not necessarily bound by the same degree of solidifications. So the references that we have in Vajrayana lineages, of course, extend beyond just the human realm. Anyway, in this case, then, the teachings that began to spread in India of the mantra teachings, they then originated in this way, on the basis of these students of the Buddha that supplicated. So we have that. We have the teachings of the Mahayoga and Anuyoga that came from King Indrabhuti. And also then we have, as we have seen earlier, the Great Perfection teaching. And that comes then from Garab Dorje. Rinpoche says, then Garab Dorje, the first human being in the lineage of the Great Perfection, began to teach and elucidate the practices of Hatha Yoga. These three great rivers of wisdom flow into the vast ocean of the teachings of Guru Rinpoche. So Padmasambhava became the recipient of these various lineages that we have then, or particularly what we call the three inner tantras. So through encompassing the complete knowledge and profundity of the sutras, his teaching chiefly emphasized the path of the secret Vajrayana. So the Vajrayana teachings that we have in Tibetan Buddhism, in the teachings of Padmasambhava and so forth, they're definitely founded on the general approach, the general, you'd say, epistemic foundations, the general science of Buddhism operates with the same rationality, if you like, and also it contains all the various trainings that we have universally in Buddhism, teachings on discipline, the teachings on concentration, and the teachings on wisdom. So there's a complete seamless unity between the sutra and the mantra teachings, but then again the Vajrayana teachings then take this particular approach that we call the resultant vehicle, engaging this original primordial purity, the Vajra nature of all beings, and making that the path. And this is then through the practice of Guru Yoga that we introduce to this nature. So here, this is when we say Om Ahung Vajra Guru, it is then invoking these aspects of enlightenment, and then particularly invoking Guru Rinpoche. Okay, a little bit of noise here. Thank you. I hope you can handle it. It's good noise. Getting a little bit of street noise also. So, Padma. Padma, the Sanskrit term for lotus, is pronounced Pema in Tibetan. There are 5 Buddha families: Buddha, Vajra, Ratna, Padma, and Kama. And these are represented by the 5 Buddhas: Vairochana, Akshobhya, Ratnasambhava, Amitabha, and Amoghasiddhi, respectively. Because the lotus-born Guru is the Nirmanakaya emanation of Amitabha, belonging to the lotus family, his initial name is Padma. Thus, in his mantra, in light of what we have just explained, we call him Vajraguru Padma. Good. Glad. Siddhi Hum. At the end of the mantra, we say Siddhi Hum. Siddhi refers to both kinds of accomplishments, the ordinary and the supreme, while Hum is a syllable of invocation requesting that Guru Rinpoche grant us these 2 accomplishments. freedom from illness and possessions of all endowments. Freedom from illness and possession of all endowments, such as prosperity and long life, are among the ordinary or mundane accomplishments. So we talk about ordinary siddhis, also things like sort of unusual powers and so forth, we refer to as ordinary mundane accomplishments. The supreme accomplishment is to attain the level of realization of Guru Rinpoche himself, meaning perfect awakening. So in brief, the whole mantra can said to mean, you, the Vajraguru, who arose from a lotus, please grant me the ordinary and supreme accomplishments. The Vajraguru mantra has 12 syllables with respect to our present condition of delusion and impurity. These syllables correspond to the 12 interdependent links of origination, which arise from ignorance and culminate in rebirth, and through the operation of which we wander in samsara. We've looked at that. I think most of you are familiar with the 12 interdependent links, but it really is the teaching on how did we get here in terms of samsara, and it's through unraveling this that we get out of samsara. We were recently looking at a text called the Rice Seedling Sutra that speaks about this. And in general, this is a very important and key teaching in all of Buddhism. Whatever tradition you're looking at, the various traditions, Theravadan tradition, the Mahayana, various traditions, the Vajrayana, all of the various Buddhist traditions understand samsara in terms of the way it originates on the basis of these 12 interdependent links. And this is also through knowing them that we unravel or free ourselves from samsara. Rinpoche goes on to say, when these links or factors are purified, they correspond to the 12 branches of Lord Buddha's teachings. So we would say that the Buddha taught 12 different branches. Furthermore, in these 12 syllables of Guru Rinpoche's mantra are condensed the mantras of all the gurus, all the yidams, and all the dakinis. The Lotus Born Guru and his mantra are inseparable. When we utter this mantra, which includes the name of the Guru, it is like repeatedly calling on someone whose response is unfailing. If we pray, reciting his mantra one-pointedly, there is no doubt whatsoever that Guru Rinpoche will turn his compassion toward us and grant his blessings. Of course, we recite this with the understanding that Guru Rinpoche is always there. This is invoking this condition that's unconditionally, originally innate to us. But at the same time, we might sometimes be caught up in our confusion. And so that's where you could say, we begin to, through the recitation, have some sense of Guru Rinpoche's presence. But of course, the reality is that Guru Rinpoche never had left us. The reality is Guru Rinpoche is never separate from who we truly are. Guru Rinpoche is co-emergent with us, if you like. Rinpoche says we should recite this mantra with our entire being, free from hypocrisy, distraction, or any kind of mechanical repetitiveness. We should not feel that we have accomplished any great thing if we have managed to recite the Vajraguru mantra a few hundred or a few thousand times. In fact, our recitation of this mantra should be uninterrupted, like the constant flow of a river, and should become one with our breath. As we recite the mantra, we should at the same time visualize that we are receiving the 4 initiations from Guru Rinpoche. So as we're sitting doing the practice, we can emphasize different aspects. We can emphasize the devotion, just feeling happy in the presence of Guru Rinpoche. We can recall the teacher. We can think of the teacher's example. We can think of the teacher's kindness. We can think of Guru Rinpoche's life. We can also think that we are receiving the 4 empowerments, the various lights that emanate from Guru Rinpoche, body, speech, and mind, and together. So we receive the 4 empowerments. Okay, now they're using a drum down there. I hope that's all right. So, why ordinary and supreme can be both accomplished? I thought they're opposite, aren't they? No, when we are practicing the path, then naturally benefits happen. On a very ordinary level, happiness. On a more sort of, as things unfold, things like long life, prosperity happens. The point is to not be attached. So we would say the ordinary accomplishments, they happen inevitably, but the point is we shouldn't be attached to them. So in this way, the ordinary is still within relative truth, and the supreme accomplishment is beyond. I hope that makes sense. There is no recitation superior to that of the Vajraguru, Guru Rinpoche's mantra. Now, some people will say, well, we just heard that mantra of Shenrezi embodies all mantras. And it's a bit like, you could say, the holograms that contain everything. So when we are engaged in one particular practice, we should think that all the benefits of all mantras are contained in that particular practice. So presently we're chanting the Vajraguru mantra. We should just think everything is complete within that. Rinpoche continues, we should make strenuous efforts in the practice of this recitation, remembering Guru Rinpoche with unwavering devotion. At the end of each session, we should think that all sentient beings, transformed into light, rise swiftly up to dissolve into Guru Rinpoche's heart. While reciting the Sangdopari prayer, we should wish fervently that all beings be reborn in the paradise of Sangdopari, the glorious copper-colored mountain. So as we're chanting the liturgy, there is some references where we aspire to be reborn in the pure realm of Padmasambhava. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Now, I'm going to be traveling for a while, and so I was just looking at the calendar. I think next time we meet will be November 20. I'll send out a mail to everyone that has registered for this webinar. So next time will be let's just see here. It's just I'll be traveling, and partly because I'll be in Europe, it'll be very difficult to do this time of the day, and also I'll be in Nepal, but then again I'll be busy. So I think we're looking at Wednesday, November 20. So that I'm aspiring we can meet again then. After that, I have a retreat over in New Zealand. I'm not sure whether we can do it then, but anyway, I'll keep everyone in the loop. So hope you're okay with that. We'll sort of we'll go step by step here. So shall be seeing you again on the 20th of November. Let's see here. Okay. Which part of New Zealand? It'll be on the South Island. I'll be teaching in a few places, Queenstown, Nelson, Christchurch. But then the retreat itself will be at this place called Wangapeka. I don't know, there should be something on the some website somewhere. Anyway, if you're interested, shoot me a mail and I'll send you the information. Yeah. All right. I think we'll conclude here. Yeah, no questions? Okay. All right. Let's see. Je vous en prie. Okay. Through this virtue, may all beings throughout existence awaken together without a single being left behind, in the pure realm of the luminous essence, the ground of the great perfection. May they remain inseparable from the kayas and wisdoms. Through all our births, wherever we may be born, may we be endowed with the 7 good qualities of the higher realms. As soon as we are born, may we meet with the Dharma and have the freedom to practice it properly. At that time, may we please the holy gurus and practice the Dharma throughout the day and night. Realizing the Dharma and accomplishing its essential meaning, may we cross the ocean of existence in that life. Thoroughly teaching the holy Dharma in this world, may we never tire of accomplishing the benefit of others. By this vast benefit of others, without partiality or bias, may all attain Buddhahood together. Thank you.